Hi, everybody. Welcome to this presentation on cyber threat intelligence, or CTI, as it's going to be called in most of this presentation, and dark web monitoring. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into what these concepts mean, why they are so critical for modern cybersecurity, and how organizations can leverage them for strategic advantage. We're also going to discuss some real-world incidents where CTI and dark web monitoring played a major role in either preventing or mitigating cyber attacks. As we're going through the presentation, I want to encourage anyone who's watching to think critically about how these practices can apply in different industries, ranging from healthcare to finance to critical infrastructure. By the end of the presentation, you should have a clear understanding not just of what CTI and dark web monitoring are, but why they are business imperatives today. And then we'll also spend some time analyzing key examples and talking about how professionals use this intelligence daily. So before we get started, just a little bit about me and my background. My name is Eduardo Gonzalez. I'm currently a senior at the University of Houston, Victoria. I'm majoring in computer information systems with a concentration in cybersecurity. And a little bit about my background. Currently, I work in private security, but in the past, I have worked in uh, civilian law enforcement, as well as I have a background in. I'm a veteran of the Air Force. I served for 6 years. So that's just a little bit about myself, and then now let's get into the presentation. Here is the roadmap that we're going to have for our discussion. First off, we're going to define what cyber threat intelligence and explain its key functions. After that, we're going to move on to dark web monitoring, explaining not only what it is, but why it matters. We'll also discuss the importance of these tools and their strategic value for organizations. And then finally, I'll share some what I think are some pretty compelling real world examples to illustrate how CTI and dark web monitoring are used in practice. As I go through each section, I'll connect the concepts to real business scenarios so you can kind of get an understanding of not just the technical details, but also the impact on operations and decision making. So to start, what is cyber threat intelligence? So cyber threat intelligence, or CTI, is the process of turning raw data into actionable information. We can think of it as detective work. So basically, you have security teams gather information from open source intelligence, also called OSINT, human intelligence, which could involve things such as insider tips or shared knowledge, and technical feeds, which are automated streams of threat indicators. These things can include IP addresses linked to malicious activity. They can include new malware variants or phishing campaigns. CTI is not just about collecting the information, it's about analyzing the patterns, correlating the data, and then predicting attacker behavior. The goal is always to stay ahead of cyber criminals by anticipating their moves before they're able to strike and cause any damage. Next up, we have strategic value of CTI. So one of the biggest benefits of CTI is its ability to transform cybersecurity from reactive to proactive. Instead of waiting for an attack to happen, CTI helps organizations identify emerging threats before they cause damage. Executives can use CTI to make risk-based decisions, deciding where to allocate resources to protect some of their most valuable assets. In addition to that, CTI shortens incident response time by providing immediate context, and then security teams already know who the attackers might be, their methods, and their motivations. CTI also supports regulatory compliance, as many frameworks like NIST and ISO now encourage intelligence-driven security. And then finally, by preventing breaches or responding quickly, companies are able to protect their brand reputation, which is in a lot of instances what is more valuable than the data itself. So now we move on to dark web monitoring. And what is dark web monitoring? So dark web monitoring is the practice of actively scanning the hidden parts of the internet, including encrypted forums and illegal marketplaces. So threat actors often sell stolen data, leak credentials, and hacking tools in these hidden areas. By monitoring these places, organizations can detect stolen information and then take action before criminals are able to use it. And just as an example, if a company's employees are found on the dark web for sale, that company can immediately reset those accounts or those employee accounts before any breach occurs and any damage is done. And I just want to add just a disclaimer for anyone who's watching and is thinking about possibly accessing the dark web. Um, if you don't know how to protect your systems or what you're doing, I would highly advise against trying to access the dark web, as simply accessing the dark web can leave your system compromised, and there's all kinds of threat actors on there looking to just infiltrate different systems. So I would highly advise against it unless you know exactly what you're doing and how to protect your systems. So I just wanted to add that disclaimer in there. Now we move on to the strategic value of dark web monitoring. And really, the strategic value of dark web monitoring cannot be overstated. It provides early warning signs or early warnings. Sometimes these warnings can be weeks or even months before a cyber attack occurs. Companies can also identify stolen intellectual property, like product designs or source code being traded illegally. Law enforcement also heavily relies on intelligence gathered on the dark web to track and arrest criminals. Certain law enforcement agencies have teams just dedicated to gathering information on the dark web, and that's all that they do. Um, Industries like retail and finance have particularly benefited from dark web monitoring, as they can cancel stolen credit cards or block fraudulent transactions before those transactions can harm any of their customers. So let's talk about a real world example of dark web monitoring. Back in 2019, Capital One suffered a massive breach where millions of customers' records were compromised. Dark web monitoring played a key role in detecting when that stolen data appeared for sale on the dark web, which this allowed Capital One and as well as law enforcement to identify and remove the compromised accounts faster. Retailers also use the same technique to detect stolen credit card information, reducing fraudulent purchases significantly. The Capital One breach turned out that the breach was caused by a misconfigured firewall, which was exploited by someone by the name of Paige Thompson. The breach led to over 100 million customer records being compromised. Dark web monitoring allowed security teams to quickly identify which customer records were being traded or offered on underground forums. And then law enforcement was able to use that intelligence to trace the attacker and secure evidence for prosecution. So this case is just one that shows how dark web monitoring can complement CTI by verifying when stolen data enters the criminal ecosystem. Let's take a look at CTI versus dark web monitoring and I guess how they differ. So while CTI covers a broad range of intelligence sources, dark web monitoring is a specialized component that focuses specifically on criminal marketplaces and underground forums. We can think of CTI as big picture, and we can think of dark web monitoring as a microscope zooming in on specific criminal activities. So when used together hand in hand, they can provide a powerful layered defense strategy. Let's talk about the integration of CTI and dark web monitoring. Integrating dark web data into CTI platforms can ensure all intelligence sources are unified. Security operations centers or SOCs benefit from this integration by receiving automated alerts when stolen credentials or targeted attacks are detected. In addition to that, collaborating with information sharing and analysis centers or ISACs allows industries to share and receive threat intelligence collectively, which in turn improves security across the entirety of sectors. So, in conclusion, CTI and dark web monitoring are essential tools in any modern cybersecurity program. The ability to not only detect threats early, make informed risk-based decisions, and prevent breaches before they happen is invaluable. Real-world cases, such as the one we spoke about with Capital One, prove their importance. Organizations that integrate these practices into their security programs will not only protect their data, but also their reputation and customer trust. So thank you for watching. I hope that this presentation has given you some valuable insights into how CTI and dark web monitoring shape cybersecurity today. Thank you.